Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Pharmacy's webinar today. I'm Tom Glinsky, Chief Inspector with the board. Today, we're going to be talking about the division's new MOPRO online licensing system, and we'll also be giving you a regulation update. Today with me is our Executive Director, Kimberly Grenston. She'll be helping me out during this webinar. If you haven't been on our webinars before, everyone is muted. You're in listen-only mode. If you have any issues with audio, you can go on the toolbar and change over to phone call if you're having trouble with the computer audio, and it'll give you dial-in instructions if needed. This has been approved for 1 hour of pharmacy continuing education. To be eligible, you have to be logged in to go to webinar under your own username to get credit. Credit will not be issued for those just listening via the phone. So if you just dial in but not logged in, you will not get credit. I will provide CE instructions at the end of the webinar. We do not report to the CPE monitor, so make sure you save your certificates. And do not assume that another state board will accept this CE. You need to check with them first. If you'd like handouts from today's webinars, there's 2 places to get those. You can go to the board's website under the upcoming events. There's a link there, or under the videos webinar. There's also a link to the webinar handouts there. The other option is on the GoToWebinar platform itself. If you're using a web browser, if you open the toolbar up and go to the bottom, you'll see a handout section where you'll find a copy of the handouts. And on the mobile app, if you're on a mobile device, it's the 3 little dots. If you click that, you'll see materials. And if you click that, that will open up and show you the webinar handouts. We do record these webinars and post them. It takes us a few days to get them out there, and we do have all our past ones on there on the website if you want to watch them. We have allowed some time to take some questions at the end. Depending on how you're connected, it will depend how you submit them. On the web browser, you can, on the toolbar, there is a questions tab. You open that up, type your question, and hit send. And then if you're on the mobile app, you have to click the little icon with the question mark in it, and that will allow you to send a question to us. So we'll get started today. I'm going to talk first about, I'll give you a regulation update, and then Kim will give us some information about the MOPRO new licensing system, and then we'll take some questions at the end of the program. So today, basically, I have 2 regulations I'm going to talk about. They were recently either revised or they're new. The first one's 2.013, which is the prescription delivery requirements. That's going to be a revision of the old rule, the existing rule. And then 2.715 is a new rule titled Authorized Pharmacy Technician Duties. If you'd like copies of the full rules, you can find these on the board's website. If you click the rules and statute icon, it'll take you to them, or here's a direct link to them if you want to go directly to them. The first one I'm going to talk about today is 2.013 prescription delivery requirements. This was originally filed in 2012. It was revised, and the revisions took effect at the end of the year on 12/30 of last year. This is the first revision to that rule. When it was first promulgated, this rule dealt mainly, it had a little bit of policy and procedure, but mainly dealt with where you could deliver prescriptions to and leave them was the main aspect of the rule when it was originally written. The revisions that we'll talk about today, there's a new section to the rule, and it addresses pharmacies that are using the mail, so US Post Office, or common commercial carrier to deliver prescriptions to patients. And for those pharmacies, there's two new requirements, one dealing with patient notifications, the others with additional policies and procedures that are needed. And I'll talk about each of those separately next. So before I do, the phrase common commercial carrier, I'll be mentioning that a lot today. So you need to understand what that is. The rule defines that as any person or entity who undertakes directly or indirectly to transport property for compensation for or on behalf of the pharmacy. So you think of the major carriers, FedEx, UPS, as common commercial carriers, but it could also be if you hire a delivery service, you contract with someone to do deliveries for you. You don't have your own staff that does that. That would also be a common commercial carrier. The rule does list two types of delivery that is not a common commercial carrier. The first one is a pharmacy that is using their staff or employees to deliver prescriptions as part of their job duties. So if you hire your own staff to make deliveries, that is not what I talk about coming up, will not apply to you for that activity. If you also mail them out by mail, then it would. But for just plain delivery by your employees, you're not a common commercial carrier. And the other is when a prescription is delivered by a healthcare provider or their designee. Say they come to the pharmacy and pick up a prescription and take it back to their office or maybe to the patient's home. So like a hospice or a home health nurse coming to the pharmacy to pick up something that they're going to go take and administer to the patient. That is not a common commercial carrier. So keep these two things in mind for whatever practice setting you're in, because this is important on what I come later on what applies to you and what does not. So the first thing I'll talk about is patient notifications. So these apply to pharmacies using mail or common commercial carrier. Again, does not apply to employee drivers. But any of these pharmacies doing that need to make a reasonable attempt to notify the patient either verbally, electronically, or in other written means that they're going to be shipping them a prescription. The board gives the leeway on how to do it. You can different methods, verbally or electronically, or other written means. It also leaves it up to you on how, what you're going to say to them. But they just need to be notified. If this is it's for each shipment. It's it's each shipment. So if you mail something today to a patient and then 2 days later mail another one, that would be 2 notifications you would have to do to tell them it's being shipped. And then the rule does require that you document this notification. Have proof of it. Could just be the date and method of notification. In today's world, a lot of people are using text messages to notify people when stuff is shipped. You could your text system might be able to show us the date, that and where it went to might be that. So it all depends on what system you use, on how you would document it. Again, this rule gives you the pharmacies the option to pick whatever works best for them. The next 3 notifications are different than the first in that these have to be in writing and they have to go with each mailing and shipment. And that doesn't matter if it's a new or a refill prescription. This is per shipment. And it must be in a manner that's clear, conspicuous, and easily visible. We don't want it in small print buried in a bunch of other fine print that the patients won't even see these. So it needs to be that they will see these notifications. So the first one is, and again, this is only for pharmacies using the mail or common commercial carrier. It does not apply to employee drivers, but they must provide a notification telling that telling the patient that the pharmacy is licensed, regulated by the Missouri Board of Pharmacy, and then it must also include our contact information, address, telephone number, and email address. So below there is the actual information of our contact information. So this has to go in writing with each shipment to the patient. The next one is it's notification that includes instructions on how the patient can detect if there's been any compromise to the integrity of the prescription due to improper storage or temperature variations. So you're going to be providing instructions to them on what to look for. This would all kind of depend on what kind of drug it is. That if it's, a liquid in today's weather today, did it freeze? Does it look different? During hot weather, are capsules, melted, all stuck together, things like that. It'll be up to you to determine what those instructions should be based on what kind of products and prescriptions you're shipping to patients. The third notification is instructing the patient, if they find a problem, how can they report that to the pharmacy? So you have to provide them some kind of contact information. Again, you have leeway here. You can tell them they can call you. You can tell them they can email you, text you. It's up to you to come up with that method. But the rule does need this notification to provide contact information for these three types of instances. Timeliness of delivery. So if a delivery is late, it's not there, how does the patient report that to the pharmacy? The integrity of the prescription. So this goes back to number 2. If they found something wrong, how are they supposed to report that to you? And then the third one is failure to receive the proper prescription order. That would be like an error, maybe a dispensing error, a packaging error, something where they didn't get the right thing. How do they report that to you? So again, all 3 of these have to be in writing, and it has to go with each shipment that the pharmacy sends. So all the notifications I previously talked about, the first one and the additional 3, do not apply. The rule says do not apply to these 3 instances. So nuclear pharmacies are not required to do patient notifications when they're shipping radiopharmaceuticals to facilities for administration to patients. Pharmacies that are mailing prescriptions to another pharmacy to be dispensed to the patient. So we're talking here Class J shared services. If you're working with another pharmacy and like a central fill scenario, notifications to the patients are not required for that setting. And then prescription orders being mailed or shipped to long-term care facilities. Patient notifications are not required there. So this is just a reminder that all these notifications I just talked about does not take the place of what's required in the patient counseling rule, that when a patient is not present and you ship something to them, you either have to, one, verbally make the offer to counsel to them, possibly over the phone, or you put something in the package in writing that tells them if they have any questions and provide them the phone number. So this is still a requirement that would be separate from the ones I previously talked about. And this applies to all deliveries regardless of the type, employee drivers or mail or common commercial carrier. So next I'm going to talk about policies and procedures that are now required. These are additional, the ones I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about back in 2012 when the rule was first promulgated. It did have this for policy requirement in there that you have a policy to ensure that the prescriptions are being delivered within the temperature requirements, either the manufacturer or USP. So there is no change to this. It's the same policy you've always had to have. What I'm going to talk about is some additional ones now going forward. But again, this is only for pharmacies who are offering or regularly engaged in shipping, delivering prescriptions using mail or common commercial carrier. Again, this does not, what I talk about now does not apply to pharmacies just using employee drivers. And these are additional policies and procedures. The first one is dealing with describing how you mail and ship prescription medication orders. It's basically what your process is going to be, how you're going to do that. It does need to include how you're going to notify the patients of the shipments. And then it also needs to include how you're going to package the prescription based on what type of storage requirement it has or what type of product it is. How are you going to package it so it meets those the requirements there? Other policies and procedures would be you have to have one on how handling reports and complaints from patients. You did the notifications on what to look for and how to report it. You need to have a policy on how you're going to handle it when you get those reports. And then the third one is, what are you going to do specifically if you get a confirmed or suspected temperature exclusion? And then including who in the pharmacy staff is going to be made aware of that. Every pharmacy will be different on who is the ultimate person that should go to that will handle this. So that talked about temperature excursions. The rule does define a temperature excursion as any deviation from the manufacturer's temperature specifications or allowed excursion ranges, or in the absence of manufacturer specifications, applicable USP temperature standards. So as you're aware, there's a lot of, stock bottles that might have the temperature range, but it has nothing about what excursion ranges might be. And when the manufacturer doesn't provide that, you can rely on USP, and that is USP Chapter 659. It's packaging and storage requirements. And in that, it provides temperature and storage definitions, and then also allowable excursion range information. So this is where you go to find out when a manufacturer doesn't provide that, what is your excursion range in that. So that's where you find that information. So now we're going to talk, answer some of the questions since the rule came out. The board office and inspectors have been receiving questions. So I gathered up some of the common ones we got, and we're going to try to answer them now during the program to avoid you guys having to send them in at the end. So the first one, we've been asked, well, why did the board revise this rule? And I'm going to let Kim. Good afternoon, Kim.
Good afternoon, and welcome everybody to the webinar. So we have received a question asking why the board revised the rule. Many of you may remember that the board several years ago initiated a standards of practice rule review approach. And basically what the board did was, or what they are doing, is they are reviewing all of their rules to see ways to empower, number one, pharmacy practice, and also to remove unnecessary, burdensome, or other requirements that may impede pharmacy practice while protecting patients. As part of that rule review, we received a request to amend the rule to address temperature requirements in response to several complaints that the board received. The board did take the rule under advisement. We actually consulted with some experts in the field. During that time, we also received complaints, and part of this came out of COVID. We received complaints from patients about getting prescriptions delivered and patients not being aware that a prescription was being mailed. It was being mailed when the patient wasn't at home or possibly out of town for an extended period of time. And we received some complaints about that happening as well. In response to the complaints, and we also looked at other board rules as well, the board decided to revise the rule to incorporate standards. Number one, to address policies and procedures governing shipping and mailing of prescriptions overall, but also to address patient notification of when something was being mailed or shipped. We heard two things on the rule. We've heard from licensees and the public saying that we didn't go far enough in regulating some issues related to delivering medications, specifically temperature controls. The board actually consulted with a cold chain management expert in looking at the rule. We understand that cold chain management standard discussion is also, may also be reviewed by USP. The board did include additional policies and procedures. Like Tom said, it already had, the rule currently had and previously had a requirement for P&Ps, policies and procedures on temperature controls, that we enacted in 2012, but we did enhance that to make sure we are addressing things, or that policies and procedures address things like packaging. So it was a conglomerate of things. It was part of the board's regular rule review. I would note that one of the things that the board purposefully did is we did not adopt the approach from other states where they mandated specific requirements, wording, and shipping. I guess packaging, if you will. We did not incorporate that. And again, this is the standards to practice approach so that we allow pharmacies to be flexible and do what's best in the interest of patients in their own practice setting. So that's a long answer to your short question. Tom, next question.
Thank you, Kim. So this question has been around since 2012 is how do we control shipments once they're out of our control and they're in the hands of the carriers? And the board issued guidance on this years ago. We understand things are out of your control. If you give it to a carrier and they deliver it to the wrong house and it sits out there in the freezing cold, that's not your issue. Or if it gets, a refrigerated package, you put the right amount of ice packs in it and the carrier loses it in transport and it takes an extra week to get to the patient, that's beyond your control. The board understands that. What you do need to do is have a policy and procedure that how you, under normal and customary delivery times, how would you maintain the proper temperature for whatever the product is. And then the board also recommends that you occasionally check with your carrier to make sure and check to see if they're getting things delivered on time or whatever the issues you have with them, and make sure they're still meeting the needs that you need in order to get to the patient in the right condition.
Tom, can I add something here? This is part of the requirement, or one of the reasons for the requirement, that you notify patients on how to contact you if something is wrong. Understanding that there will be shipment issues that are outside of your control, we want to make sure that patients know when to notify the pharmacy that there's a problem and how.
Thanks, Kim. Does the rule apply to out-of-state pharmacy shipping into Missouri? Yes, it does. It applies to any Missouri licensed pharmacy, and we do require non-resident pharmacies to hold a Missouri license. So the answer is yes. The next couple questions have to do with employee drivers. We had a hospital ask that says it's not their pharmacy staff that makes the deliveries for them. It's other hospital employees. Are they considered a common commercial carrier? And the answer is no. We would look at the hospital and the pharmacy employees to be one and the same for that purpose. And then the other one is someone asking about, does these drivers have to be licensed technicians in order not to be considered a common commercial carrier? No, not all drivers have to hold a license. It all depends on what they do. If they take a package that's sealed, that's all they do, and deliver it, then technically they do not need to be licensed as a technician. It's when they start doing more in the pharmacy that would triggers them to need a technician license. But that has nothing to do with whether they meet the definition or not of a common commercial carrier. So if a pharmacy uses a taxi or a service like Uber and Lyft to deliver prescriptions to patients, are they using a common commercial carrier? If the pharmacy is hiring them, yes. The only thing that would be different with that would be if the taxi or the service driver is also a pharmacy employee, then they would meet the definition of an employee driver. But in general, yes, if you hire an outside company, taxi, or a delivery service, that is a common commercial carrier. And then the people ask the opposite of that. Well, what happened if the patient hires them and sends them to pick it up a prescription at the pharmacy? No, that would not be. The patient is hiring them and doing that on their own. So we would not consider them to be a common commercial carrier in that instance. Does the rule require the use of temperature indicators in packaging? The rule does not. However, I can't speak for any other entities. So I'm not sure what it's all out there, but if there's a manufacturer, say on maybe a biologic or something like that, that requires them, then you would need to follow that. If FDA came out with something requiring, then you have to, or any other entity. But the rule itself does not require that. But you do need to be, depending on what kind of products you have, there may be someone else requiring that. Does the board recommend a specific carrier be used? No, the board does not make any recommendations on that. The next two deal with alternative ways to make notifications. Someone asks, can we just put the information about the board's contact information on our website? The answer is no, it must be provided in writing with each shipment. So you can have it on your website, but you're also going to have to put it in writing in the shipment itself. And then wanting to know, could a QR code be used instead of additional written material? And the answer is no. It must be provided in writing with each shipment. Not everyone may be able to open a QR code. So you got to keep that in mind. Does the board have draft patient notification language? No, the board does not. Every pharmacy needs to develop it themselves based on what they do. Every pharmacy will be different. So the rule is very accommodating to give you the option to create these notifications yourself, and the same with the policies and procedures based on what your pharmacy does. Will the board approve my notification language or my policies and procedures? No, the board does not approve specific policies and procedures. We get asked a lot to do that. We do not do that. Does the board have a preferred communication method for informing the patient the prescription is shipped? No. Again, the rule allows the pharmacy the option to do this. Every scenario is going to be different. It might be easy to pick up the phone and call them, or now today with all the texting going on, an automated system like that. So the rule, again, very accommodating, lets you pick these things. The only thing you don't have an option is the method when it comes to the three that I said have to be done in writing. Can we document the notifications in a patient note? Yeah, you can document it wherever you want. You can decide how to store it. It could be on the prescription, it could be in a profile, it could be in a standalone system, especially if you're using some kind of text system. That may be a whole standalone thing. So as long as you can retrieve it for us, that's what's required. And then someone wanted to know if their policy states that they will call each patient before they ship it, do they still have to document each call? And the answer is yes. The rule does require you to document that. So if you want additional information about this rule we're talking about, the board did issue a guidance memo back in December. It can be found at the board's website at that link. And then if you have any other questions, you can always email your inspector or the board office. So the next rule I'm just going to talk briefly about is the authorized pharmacy technician duties rule. It's a new one. It becomes effective on January 30th of this year. So a few more days. And basically it lists unauthorized duties the pharmacist technician should not be doing. And then it also addresses if a pharmacy is using a licensed technician or intern who also holds other professional licenses like an LPN or an RN, or those that are also community health workers. So the list of unauthorized duties is nothing groundbreaking here. These are all things we already know. We've always said that technicians can't counsel, they can't do DUR, they can't provide recommendations on products, they can't be providing medical drug therapy suggestions, stuff like that. They can't do final prescription verification. However, there is 2.012 does allow it under using certain technology on certain products. And then any other thing that's required by law, such as DEA and us requiring only a controlled substance refill can be transferred by a pharmacist, and then any other activity. So nothing groundbreaking there. I did want to call out these two things in the rule. These are some kind of new allowances here that the board will allow a technician to do now once the rule becomes in effect. The first is read directions or information exactly as printed on the prescription label medication container, or other pharmacist approved written communication. In the past, we would say that is counseling. We will not call that counseling anymore. They have to stick to the script. And so if a patient asks them, how do I take my medicine? If they can pull the bottle out and read the label to them off that, that is fine. Other example would be giving an immunization and you have a standard instructions to the patient. A technician could read that verbatim to them and we would not consider that counseling. However, that doesn't take the place of the offer to counsel. If a patient says, how do I take it? They can answer that, but they still need to ask if they have any questions for the pharmacist. And then if you are going to let your technicians do this, you must have a written policy and procedure detailing what's allowed in there. And then the other bullet deals with vaccines and immunizations, stuff like that. They can provide certain information for that. But again, go back to the first sentence, if allowed by the pharmacist. If the pharmacist is not comfortable with it, they would have the ultimate decision there. So now I'll turn it over to Kim, who's going to tell us about MOPRO.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks for the information on the regulations. There are a lot of things moving and happening in pharmacy. I'm going to give some information about the board's new online licensing system. But as I do that, this is a great time for you to drop your questions into the chat. When we finish this, we are going to go back and take additional questions on the rule. Tom is actually reviewing them now. So if you can listen and also type in any questions that you have, I know we have a lot of changes that are happening with the rules. So let's talk about MOPRO, and I'll start with the why, and that's probably a very easy question. We had a system that I think came over in 1999. It was an old access database that we have hobbled along with for some time. And the opportunity came for the division to establish a brand new online licensing portal. And so we have it, and it is called MOPRO, Missouri Professional Registration. I don't know what the O stands for, but it's MOPRO right now. We are really excited about the new opportunities with MOPRO, especially for licensees. And our hope and our goal is that this will add or give you some more efficiencies as you manage your license on your own. I think that's the one thing we can say about MOPRO. This is an online self-license management system. So there are a lot of functions that you will be able to access on your own. You have screenshots, you'll see screenshots of what the main MOPRO screen looks like. Some of this is still in development. So some of you may see the top, depending on your platform, you may see the top screenshot, which will show you where you can file things and what you can do, and also give you the option in login. For other users, usually people who are accessing on their mobile devices, you may see the 3 bars that you see at the bottom of the screen. And if you click there, it will allow you to access services. Again, you'll be able to manage your license online, which includes applying for a license, renewing your license, changing your name, your address, your email, employment information. For our business entities, that includes changing corporate officers, changing your pharmacist in charge, any drug distributors on the call, your managers in charge. You can now do all of that and submit those applications online. In order to use MOPRO, you're going to have to register for your account. So if you are currently licensed, you can go to that MOPRO website. It is live right now, and claim your account. Certain functions will require login. You will not be able to do anything in the system without claiming that account and having that under your name. It will ask you some identifying information, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But you go to the website, enter your information, and your license, the license that is affiliated with your account, should show. A couple of other functions that I want to point out that are available. Requesting a duplicate license. You are currently able, through MOPRO, to print a duplicate license for free. So for those of you who are previously paid the board office to print a duplicate license, you no longer need to do that, because you can print a duplicate license that will show on the standard in the standard format. It's going to look much like the license you have hanging on your wall, or possibly the wallet card that you have right now. You can do that on the website. You can also request a certification if you'd like the board to issue an official certification. Our website is our primary source verification, however, so that duplicate license is valid and should be accepted by other states. Following your notifications of intent to immunize or to administer by prescription order, that has always been online. It is online as well right now. And also filing for MTS, and also bleeding disorder notifications for pharmacies who are dispensing products under a Class M. A couple of things. This is what your online registration screen will look like. It will give you the option to walk through this information. If you have a social security number, this is a secure site. It will ask for your social security number to match you to your individual license. Once you do that, once you log in and you are in the system, you will see everything that the board currently has registered for you. If you do not have a social security number, it will give you the option to choose how you will verify lawful presence. And I do need to add something here. Under federal law, in order to be licensed from actually any state occupational license, applicants need to verify that they are lawfully residing in the United States or a U.S. citizen. Having said that, going forward, all applicants will be asked to upload copies of their birth certificate if you are a U.S. citizen, and/or proof of lawful presence in the United States with your application. This is going to apply going forward. So the applications that are currently here on file and in the mail, it will not apply to those. But for those coming in online through the secure system, you can upload now that information, but it will be required. We will still have paper applications. If you'd like to still file a paper application, you will be able to do so. Those applications have been revised to match what you will see in MOPRO. So everyone who has an old application, we will stop accepting them at some point, but those applications have been revised. So if you have technicians that are filling out a new application, interns, pharmacists who are applying for the exam, or by reciprocity, please note those applications have changed and they should be using and downloading the most current application. You will know it's current because the proof of lawful residence is on the application itself. So please make sure your technicians are doing that, because if not, we will have to follow up on the back end and ask them for that information. When you register for an account, you will need to have access to the email address that is on file with the board. That is one of the authenticating factors. And so once you register, you give us the email address, give us your personal information. A code will be sent to the email address on record. If you do not have access to the email address on record, please go to the board's website and change your email address. We will change it for you on the back end, and then once that's completed, you'll be able to go in. But please note that you need access to the email address to register. This includes business accounts. So business accounts will go through the same process. However, we will ask you to verify your account through the email address that you all have on file with us. So your email needs to be up to date in order to register through MOPRO. We have a help desk, a technical help desk. You'll see the number on the screen. Board office, board staff is also standing by to answer questions. And of course, you can always email Missouri BOP if you need to get your email address updated. You will need to register your account to renew your license. We will be doing all online license renewals, except for those who may be renewing on paper because of other compliance issues or other issues that are known in the board office. But generally, all renewals will be online. And what's important is that you start talking with your technicians to make sure your technicians are registered. They will begin renewals on March the 1st. Please do not wait until March the 1st to have them in the system. This is a great time for them to go in, update their personal information, email address, contact information, and employment history as well. There's going to be a big rush in the spring. We will also be renewing at the same time as nurses are renewing, so there will be a lot of demand on the system. Please make sure that your technicians and pharmacists also go in and register for the system. The system does include an online licensee search and license verification. Our downloadable listings will be available as well. As with anything that's new in tech, there's always just a little bit of a glitch. Right now, we are updating the licensee search function and the downloadable listing function. It is unavailable. We are hoping to have those back up and running, and this is division-wide, not just for the Board of Pharmacy, but for all licensing boards. We are hoping to have that up and running by the end of this week. I'm told that Thursday may be our target date. Please don't hold us to that. We know how important these lists are for you, but we want to make sure that we are just that the lists are correct and match what is currently in our system. We will continue to do our disciplinary action reporting forms online as well. If you go to the website, and again, depending on what device you're using, this may look a little different. You may need to click on the 3 bars at the top to access the drop-down menu. But all of these forms can now be filed online and automatically brought over into our system. It's a little bit different, has a different look than what it did previously. Previously, you all were used to the online services / reporting function. These links are still there, but they will automatically redirect you to MOPRO. To report disciplinary action, you do not need to have an account. So under Missouri law, we have entities that are required to report actions against pharmacists and sometimes technicians as well. Even if you're not licensed with the board and you need to file a disciplinary action report, you can do that even though you do not have an account in our system. We're really excited about the MOPRO system. We're more excited about what it means for you and the ease and efficiency. So I heard a story the other day about someone who needed a verification of licensure. That would normally take a licensing board about 2 to 3 weeks. You have to mail in a paper application. We have to receive it, process the fee. We then print a online verification. It then goes out in the mail to whomever you are asking us to send it to. So we would always tell people, allow 2 to 3 weeks for an online verification. We understood that we are now, someone submitted one, I believe it was last week, and we were able to issue it and email it automatically out to the recipient within a matter of minutes. And so those are the efficiencies that we're hoping for across the board. And we are excited to bring this to everyone. We'll be giving more information about the MOPRO system as we go forward. But if you have any questions, please feel free to call our tech line, or you can call the board office, and of course, email us. We have people monitoring the email account. Now it's time for questions. And I see that a lot of questions have come in already. This is a slide. If you haven't been on a webinar and you need to know how to ask a question, you can just drop your question in the chat box, and we'll be monitoring them. And so I think Tom looks like we've got a lot of questions that have come in. Yeah. Tom's had a chance to look at some of them. So Tom, I'm going to turn this part over to you.
I got a couple for MOPRO real quick.
Sure.
Before we switch to regulations. How do you add additional facility license under the same profile?
So if the email addresses are connected, they should be coming over automatically. If they're not, contact the board office. For our licensees or permit holders who have multiple licenses, we did send out an email to you asking you about creation of a group account. If you didn't receive that email MissouriBOP@pr.mo.gov and we'll send it out again. We can also create a master account for you on the back end that will automatically show all of the licenses you have that are connected with the same email account, well, based on email account. And so we can build that for you as well. So if you have any questions about that process, but if they have a current email address, you should be seeing it when you bring it over.
Someone's asking if they have multiple pharmacies under one email but want to separate them in the future and have different emails. How do they go about doing that?
Again, you're going to have to update your email address with the board. So just email us at MissouriBOP@pr.mo.gov. We'll probably need to set that up for you at on the back end if you'd like a separate address. And we have gotten that question a lot. Facilities, because they may have different operations or managed by different people. How do you separate them if you don't want them together? Email us again. Make sure you give us license number of the facility if you can, the name of the entity, and the ones you want to separate, and we'll walk through getting it set up for you on the back end.
We have someone asking if you're able to go in and print your certificate, can you use that and post it on the wall instead of the original?
The answer is yes, yes, and yes again. So that license will look almost identical to what you are receiving in the mail right now, the hard copy with the absence of our computer paper, if you will. So that license also has a QR code on it, and it will verify. If you scan the QR code, it will tell you if it's valid or not. So to prevent fraud, we did add that feature as well. Licenses can also print on the, photos can also print on the license, but to do that, we need a valid photo for you. So you'll probably see that on new licenses as well, but those will also be printed. But yes, we are asking people, you no longer have to pay us to print a duplicate license. You can now do that on your own through the website.
We've been flooded with questions from MOPRO recently, but we're going to switch to regulation questions and knock some of them out, and we'll come back to some MOPRO questions. Someone's asking, what is the record retention time for patient notifications that's required? It would be a 2-year record is the retention time. Someone's wanting clarification that there's really 2 notifications, one that's being sent notifying them that you shipped the shipment, and then the other one that contains the 3 elements of contact information, integrity, and how to report. That is a correct summary of what I said, yes. We have someone asking, what's the difference between USP 659 and 1079? So 659 is the one that provides the definitions of the storage ranges, and it also provides excursions. 1079 is called good storage and shipping practices. It is probably great guidance on how to do things, but I don't believe it actually has those definitions in it. I remember years ago, 1079 was revised. It used to have more information in it, I thought, on pharmacy shipping stuff. I don't believe that's as much as in there now. But again, 659 is an official chapter under 1,000, so it's enforceable. 1079 is above 1,000, so that would be more like guidance. But I would recommend people looking at 1079 if you need information. But I haven't. I'm pretty sure they've taken some of the stuff out years ago when it came to pharmacy shipping prescriptions. Someone wanting to know, will you be able to print the questions and answers we had? Yeah, if you get the handouts, you can print them from there if you want a copy of what I had on the slide.
And the handouts are on the board's website?
On the board's website, and also on the your GoToWebinar toolbar, either on the browser or on the mobile app. You can get them there. Someone's asking about, they have a direct contract courier for deliveries. They want to know, they're dedicated people that are just making deliveries for the pharmacy. Would they be considered a common commercial carrier? I think it all depends on, is that contract you have with them make them your employees or not? That's probably more of a legal question that I can't answer on how that contract, but they have to be your employees. If they're not your employees, then that, yes, it would be considered a common commercial carrier. People asking if you are making a delivery to taking a prescription to a clinic or a practitioner's office, do you have to do the notifications? Well, it depends on who's making the deliveries. If it's your staff, employees, then no. If you're having it shipped there by a common courier, then yes, you would. So it all depends on who's making deliveries. I think in this one they said it was pharmacy staff, so those would be your employees, so no. Here's a timely question for today's weather. Any recommendations on types of packaging to protect meds from freezing in temperatures? The board does not have any specific recommendations. Again, look for guidance out there. In the USP chapter, 1079 might have some. You could also talk to the manufacturers. if you have specific products you're looking for, or you just might need to reach out to maybe a possible consultant in this area. Someone's mentioned that they're doing med sync, so they're talking to the patient at the first of the month on what they need filled. They want to clarify, do they still have to make a notification that it's being shipped? The answer is yes. They think you still have to do it. Even though you talk to them at the beginning of the month, you need to notify them when it's actually being shipped. Can a technician discuss information with another healthcare professional? And they gave the example is a nurse regarding a patient. Can they make a recommendation of alternative medication if directed by the pharmacist? If they're just relaying information from the pharmacist to another healthcare provider, that's allowed, but they cannot make a recommendation on their own. That would not be allowed. So if they're just relaying it for the pharmacist, that would be okay.
Tom is reading through some additional questions. We've gotten a lot in on this topic. And if we aren't able to get to your questions on the webinar, please email us at missouribop@pr.mo.gov, and we'll try to get you an answer that way if we can.
Someone's asking, do we have to document that the patient received the shipment? That is not required anywhere in the rule.
Can I add something here, Tom? We've
Feel
received
free.
a question in the office to staff asking if they need to continue contacting the patient if they are unable to reach them. And our rule doesn't require that you make sure that the contact is successful. Our rule requires that you make the notification. If you're unable to get in contact with the patient, we would recommend that you document. You should be documenting the date and method that the notification was made. We recommend you also documenting that the patient was unavailable, but we don't require that you continuously call the patient until you are able to speak with them to confirm that a shipment is going out.
Someone again, one clarification, if the pharmacy employee is physically driving and delivering the prescription, which of the rules apply? And the stuff that I talked about, the new stuff does not apply. The old, the one slide where I had the policy and procedure requirement from 2012 would apply, but none of the new requirements on policies, procedures, or the notifications would apply since your employees are doing that. We're going to have to switch to MOPRO, Kim. We're getting a lot of questions on MOPRO.
All right, let's try it.
Wait, we have someone said they just logged in.
Great.
And had no problem. Okay.
Excellent. Love to hear it.
So do we have any idea when you're going to retire paper applications?
Yes. So intern pharmacists, those paper applications have already been retired. Of course, NOI and MTS applications, NOI applications, of course, have been retired as well because those haven't been on paper in some time. We are anticipating phasing out. I think our next stage will possibly be technician applications, but we won't do that until after renewals in May. We want to give everyone time to become comfortable with the system and to make sure that you're able to claim your accounts, but we will notify you as we begin to take down some of those paper applications that are online. But I really encourage everyone. I think we talked about taking down the pharmacist exam application before graduation season, so those could be online as well. We'll let you know as we phase those out, but I don't anticipate, other than intern pharmacists and NOIs, I don't anticipate taking those down until at least May of this year.
So we have our first review to post on our website. It says, just registered with MOPRO, amazingly easy, great site.
That's great.
That's good to hear.
That's great. Your board staff has been working very hard along with the division to stand up the system for you. So please be patient because we are getting in a lot of calls as people attempt to navigate through the system. Please be patient, but if you have any problems, please call the board office or our tech line.
Someone's asking about signatures on the electronic applications. are they just typing their name, or is there some other verification that's being done?
No, that is correct. It's just a typement of your name. There is an attestation clause that will be online at penalty of perjury, which is a criminal offense. So, and we actually began updating the board's applications maybe a year ago to accommodate this. So you will see that some of the current applications were modified previously, but we will be accepting attestations along. I think you have to sign your name and then print your name as well. And you don't need special software to do that. If you type in the boxes, it will do it for you.
Someone wants to clarify, we still are sending out renewal cards?
Wow, that's a good question. We may just be doing emails. So normally we send it out by email. We only send out renewal cards if you haven't renewed within a certain window to make sure we reach everybody. Your initial renewal request will be by email, or notification will be by email. I think we start sending postcards maybe within 3-4 weeks if you haven't renewed as of yet, and then those go out throughout the time period. So for right now, initial will be email. Not sure about postcards, but at least for text, going through first round, I'm pretty sure we will do postcards. Pharmacists, well, you all don't renew again until 2026. For entities, you'll be renewing at the end of this year. Those will likely be all email.
So they're logging in as we speak.
Okay.
So these are live problems. Trying to set up account, how long does it take to get the security code email?
It should be less than 10 seconds. And if you don't get it, please check your junk or your spam email folder. I did it the other day, and I think I got it in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's very quick.
Very quick.
As long as you know what email address we have on file.
That's
and so
correct.
that if you're using and you've changed emails and never notified, some of our email addresses have been in there for years.
Yes.
So you might need to contact the board office and find out what email address we show for you.
Or if you don't know, you can also just go to the board's website, fill out the online email address correction form that's still live. We are still looking at those and updating those for you in the new system.
It's been 30 minutes, so there is a problem.
Yeah.
You need to call the board office.
Yeah, there's a problem. You can call the office or the tech line. Either one will be able to help you. That should not take that long.
We're getting almost out of time. Someone wants to know to apply, do you have to create an account first?
Yes, you do. You have to create an account. And if you've never been in the system, then you walk through as a new user, and it collects just personal information. If you're a business, it will ask about business information. If you're a business, I want to point out that we are asking information for the account. Who is going to be operating the account? Once you're in your account and once you are in MOPRO, you can then apply for a facility license and name it whatever you'd like. So you don't need to necessarily, the account could be in the name of 123 Main Pharmacy, but you're actually going to license ABCRX. That's fine. Your account name is different from your license name. Those are two different things. I think
we got one last question.
Yes.
You mentioned you contacted some business owners, but did you contact all of them?
No, only those who had, I think, or who held more than 10 licenses with the board. If you're unable to set up a group account and you're interested in doing so, and you have fewer than 10 licenses, just email MissouriBOP@pr.mo.gov. Our staff will reach out, and what we'll do is we'll give you a list of what we have in our records for the information you provide, and you can let us know who you want consolidated and who you would not. Again, we are really excited about MOPRO and being able to give you this opportunity. It's going to give us a lot of efficiencies, especially for technicians. For those of you who are used to technicians applying and they come in and we don't know if we have the application, you all don't know what's happening with it, you can now check the status. They can individually check the status of their own application. You can't check someone else's, but technicians, the applicant can now go in and see where they are in the review process. We have times when we've approved and issued, but they haven't gotten the hard copy. Now you can go in, and once we approve, I think it takes about 5 to 10 seconds for that license number to populate online. And so that's it. Previously, it took the next day. You had to wait until after midnight. We don't have that lag anymore. So hopefully, again, this will be a great tool. Let us know if you have problems. Please be patient with us as we walk through standing up the new information, but we're really excited to bring you all this opportunity.
Okay, we are out of time. We do record our webinars. It can take us approximately 15 days to get them on our website. If you want continuing education, you must complete the post survey to earn CE. Do not close your web browser. Click close on the window that opens up. And again, don't close your browser, and the survey will then open, answer questions, and click submit. If you're on a mobile device, you don't have to do any of that. It just pops up. If you have any questions or you do not get the questions, you can email us at compliance@pr.mo.gov, and we will email you the questions. You must get them back to us within 24 hours to receive CE. We will email certificates out in approximately 30 days. And remember, save your certificates. We do not report to the CPE monitor. So thank you, Kim, for joining me today, telling us about MOPRO.
Thank you, everyone, and stay warm.
And we are now going to close the webinar.